Welcome, folks, to another system design session of HB Skills. Today, we are doing a mock interview. Sugna would be the interviewer and Raghu would be the candidate. And with this, I would like to give it the control to Sugna and Raghu. Over to you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Asin. So, Raghu, can you please design the Netflix system and just start asking any questions and start with the high level, and also we'll get into the details of how does the data model look like, and also the APIs and things like that.
Sure, Sugana. So, okay. Looking at some bullet points.
Looking for the bullet points, or
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, okay. That's okay. So on a high level, right? Netflix design. So we need to stream. Okay, so user request for some content or so video. Okay. And I'm just thinking around it. Okay, so so we need just they will request for a movie or something. We need to play the content, and other than that, yeah. So just those player options, I think. So that I think the UI can take care of that, and then the user account or profile section that I could see. And multiple accounts. Yeah. So on a high level, yeah.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
So I just on a high level, I just want to draw some blocks, and then based on that, yeah, we will see.
So what is the difference between second and third player and the user account? Is it
so actually, yeah. So I'm talking more on the controls, like the video player control section. But I think that is the UI part, right? I can. I think. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can say this is just browser. So they call our I can say just service. So and once they call our service, maybe we have some kind of database on a high level. So it will. A DB. So I'm just so when they call for a particular movie or something, so our web service will just browse the data from the database and retrieve to the user. So I can say these are just like a two direction, but yeah. So so this is on high level. So here as an input, he will just request for the movie. And we will get the content or link, and then we stream to the browser. But again, I'm not particularly sure how can we stream. So okay, I'm just at least for now I'm assuming that there is a file. We'll just give him the file, so he'll be loading into the browser. So for the user account and all, I mean, it will go through the similar profile. So maybe initially when they try to log in, maybe it might be the same database or the different database. So it will initially, right? So for the authentication or access, it will query the database and confirm that this user is the valid user, or Yeah. So does he have account in Netflix?
Mhm, mhm.
So based on that,
So you are saying that the user info and the video content can be in the same data store and different data store?
no, it can be actually. Just thinking, why not in same database?
Mhm.
So
Okay. So, what are the pros and cons if you have it in the same or it's in a different, the user and the content?
user and content same. So it's like maybe I'll say the user details and account kind of more secure. The streaming, I
Mhm,
think it is fine to someone to watch the
mhm,
trailer or some other content, but
mhm.
I think maybe the profile is kind of more we need to have like more secured way.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
also, yeah, yeah, actually, this is also a good point, right? So the streaming content and everything, we don't
Mhm,
want to, encrypt all the time. Sometimes it is okay
mhm,
to just, stream it, in non-HTTP,
mhm,
way. Like we don't
mhm,
have to encode that entire data if we care about the latency and the performance. But I
mhm,
think, yeah, maybe for this user content, yeah, I think we need to follow this end-to-end security.
mhm. Okay.
Yeah, so.
So what are the different APIs you can think of for the user data versus the video or the content?
Okay, so the APIs. So here, let me maybe first he need to log in. So log in or sign up option. So initially, so this is one I could. Okay, so the first one is initially, I'll give it sign up. So maybe it may not be the API name is may not be the sign up, but I'm expecting the user to give his credentials just to create the account username, a password, or the type of the account. So all those details. So and then we need a login page. So similarly, I will have a API for login, or is he a valid user or something like that,
Mhm,
and then maybe so for selecting the language and all those, I think maybe I can take that as part of the sign up. Once he log in, maybe in the search bar I can have one API. So when
mhm,
they query with their content, and then I'll just return the relevant results. So for
mhm,
search, we have one API, and then search. So yeah, so and then maybe get content. When they just select that content, I will return that file. So um, yeah, I would say so. I don't think there will be like many right APIs other than he giving his credentials. So I don't think maybe updating his account details.
mhm.
Maybe yeah. So I could only think of these. Get content is the main one.
Mhm,
Yeah. So once they search, they when they click on that movie or that video, so maybe
mhm,
with that video ID or something, I will call this get content API, so that it will
mhm,
retrieve that content.
mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, let's focus on the 3 and 4. So what would be our API inputs and what are you going to return the results? How does the response look like?
Okay, sure. So if we take a so if we just talk about the search API, so the input parameters that we need is query. That is one thing we need in input, and then maybe the user ID. I'm just thinking we already validated that user, but
Mhm.
we need to give that are I'm thinking maybe some kind of token that validates that he's a approved user, but
Mhm.
maybe that is already completed, maybe since he's already logged in,
Mhm.
or maybe but yeah, so there is some kind of a token, I would say, because even I think maybe the even like non Netflix members also they can query. So I think maybe this will validate. Okay, or maybe yeah. So I think I can just give the query.
Mhm.
Query maybe type if there is a a drop down or something, or category, if you can give all those details. But I would say just type. This would be enough just to retrieve the content.
Mhm.
So query, he gave that exact phrase what he's looking, and query is like a enumeration where he will select whether it's a movie or TV series or that type of category. But maybe I'm just assuming it's just a type. So I think these two inputs are enough. So we will just in output we will just give him the results. Maybe we will just parse that accordingly in our browser.
Mhm.
So I'll return all those results. In the results, I would.
So how does the results look like? Whether it will be kind of,
Yeah. So
object or a, yeah.
yes. So it's an object, with no. Okay. So it's we can send a JSON with well, just as maybe it's like array of the individual objects. In that we can have the titles, and then let me remove this. So in results we will return all the titles, and then some description that also we want to see, maybe some rating or something, that everything in the description, and also the thumbnail, the thumbnail link or something, so that we will parse it. Thumbnail or the content, maybe some ID, this content ID, so that if they choose to watch this, then we query we query our database to retrieve the actual the content of that. Or maybe if we have that hover over feature also, right? If we hover on that video, we will at least get the trailer. Then in that case, along with the thumbnail, I will send the preview link, or preview link or something. Yeah, so I could think of these title, description, thumbnail, maybe content.
So how do you limit the results? Is just return everything, or like,
Maybe based on maybe I'll just initially return standard a 20 or 30 based on, like, his device size. Maybe if it is only like 510 or viewable, right, then I'll only try to return those. I think in UI, if we go down, right, we can dynamically load more. Maybe I would use that approach. But initially, I will just limit the results to maybe I would just say 20, but this is not a set in stone, but let's say limited results.
Okay.
So with these data, and then once, so this is the search, right? So I would say get with the get content. So if I think mostly maybe some the token which I'm talking about, I'm not sure how do we authenticate usually from the UI, but that
Mhm,
authentication option and then the ID, the
mhm.
content ID. So if they click that, then we'll just retrieve the uh, I think I would say I think it will, the content ID, yeah, the title, description, and the I think even here also the same thing, but yeah, that original
Mhm.
video link or something like that. So when they
What
click
is the ID in the get call in the input? What is ID?
here, so in our search results, we are giving this content.
Content ID.
Yeah, let me.
Okay.
Yeah, here also I'm just sending the same thing. Just
Mhm,
thinking if we have any other purpose. Maybe for example, right? If you want to like that movie or something, right? Maybe based
mhm,
on the same content ID, we would do something. So that's where.
mhm. Okay. And also, how do you handle if you watch the movie for some time and then you are coming back and watching again?
Okay, that's actually, yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking we have only limited post request, right? Maybe for
Mm,
that also. Um, yeah, so at least we have a user ID, right? For the
mhm,
user ID and the content ID, we have this unique combination.
mhm,
And then maybe frequent. I'm not sure if they do every how frequently they do, but maybe in the back end, if we send some kind of status like what was he watching or till what point he watched.
mhm. Kind
So
of offset.
right, that video offset.
Mm,
So what like yeah, the time maybe in the seconds or something we can give that
mm,
in minutes we would send, but do we send every maybe a minute or something? So we would just the combination of his user ID and this
mm,
content, maybe we will store it there, or maybe in his same we have this his user profile, right? Maybe in a
mm,
different table, so we can just use the combination of these for this user for this movie till what point he watched.
mhm,
The end point we can store. It's like overriding the same row.
mhm. Okay. So how does the search API work altogether in the sense, to return the results, what should be done in the backend? Now that you have the API defined.
Right. So sorry for this. Okay. So so based on that search, right? Maybe think we will have. I mean, they might have something other than these databases, some kind of
Mhm,
indexing layers, or maybe I'm just giving an examples of
mhm,
Elasticsearch or Solar, these kind of
mhm,
things. So or some kind of cache.
mhm,
But I'm just since we are talking about search, I was just taking this one. So yeah, so this will have those while storing the content, right? Maybe
mhm,
I would say so. We need these things also, something post content API. So this is not for the user point of view, but even the people who want to post the content, right? Upload the
mhm,
videos. I'm assuming they might have a different account where they
mhm,
upload those. So yeah, so parallelly, I think we will have some kind of stream which will upload in multiple places.
mhm,
So one is this is the content TD. Um, this is the content TD,
mhm,
and then along with that, we just take this some meta information like content edit, titles, description, preview links, right? So these things we even post it here. Just So this is also kind of our service, which will take care of these. Okay, so this is the one, right? Okay. Yeah. So when someone search for that, maybe I can talk to this indexing layer and get the required information.
Mhm.
When they're actually querying for that get the content, then only I'll call this database. And also in the search results, something right here, we are returning only the preview link. Even for this preview data also, I can query the database. Yeah. But when retrieving the actual, the heavy content, then I'll rely on this database.
Okay. And do you think that, because we'll not be able to always talk to the server, right, to retrieve the content? Do you want to introduce any of can you think of how to optimize further?
Yes, I mean, usually, yeah. So I think in front of every database, we'll keep some kind of cache. Maybe thinking some kind of cache in front of the database. Yeah, actually, yeah. So that's yeah, that is actually a good thing. So our web service, right? So yeah, it actually, I'll just draw something like this. But usually, yeah. So first, it will try to get the data from this cache only. But if it could not retrieve that, then only it will talk to this content DB and put the data here. Yeah, I think this is one more thing, right? So I think when user initiated that I want to watch that movie or something, that video, maybe the database usually it will take some time, right? Maybe we can load a part of movie or complete that thing to the cache. And then so that he can since he already started it, so he can get that easily.
Okay.
So actually, this part I'm not clear. When we watch the video, I don't know, will they? How do we retrieve that through the network? That part I'm not clear. But, yeah, but if you use that cache, it will be easy.
Okay. So right now, whatever you have put together is fine for the smaller set of users. How do you scale your system?
Okay, scaling. Scaling in a sense, I mean, so okay. So whatever the systems I was referring here, all of these are distributed systems only. So these are web service we can scale, and even all of these systems which I took, right? So all these are distributed systems only. So we can scale them horizontally based upon our needs. And yeah, so I mean, like, are you
So do you
something? Because yeah, so I was so
do
these
you
are not single machines. So I'm
yeah,
just
okay. So do you scale the service differently versus the storage? Do you have any pattern you can think of?
Service versus
The storage.
Storage. Okay, so service. Okay, but this content database, I would say maybe if you're talking about multiple regions, I will have a copy of this content in all the regions wherever I'm using it. Like it's like a like the same data available in like multiple copies of data I have, like one in each region. But this web service, right? So I think, yeah, so maybe a primary and secondary would be enough. So like based on the load and all, if for example, if my service is handling that like entire load, then I'll just have 2 instances is fine. or if I need to scale up. But yeah, so what I'm trying to say is here, right? So this web service doesn't have to be same for all, but this content DB, we want to have this kind of same data everywhere, because anyone can retrieve that.
Sorry, come again. Why do you think service need not be same for all the places or all the regions?
Maybe I'm not conveying it properly, but yeah. So I'm trying to say this service is kind of stateless, right? Just like so, it's like even if one is down, we can immediately span other one. I'm just thinking in that sense, but the data should be readily available.
Okay. And how do you replicate the data in the sense, how do you make sure that your data is not hotspotted or you're able to kind of distribute the load equally?
Yeah, so about that, so while storing, okay, so here, right, if someone requests for a particular video, I'm retrieving it only once and keeping it in the cache. So at least in that sense, I'm not hotspotting the database, because I'm only reading it once. If my primary key is that the content ID, if I query many times, many users with the same content ID, then only it will get hotspotted, right? But since I'm just loading it into the cache, I'm serving it.
Okay.
At least the hotspot, I don't think it will happen at the user database level.
And the video or the content of particular movie is stored in one server, 1 DB server, as per your design. If so, what is the advantage and disadvantage of it? Like consider you're like searching for a movie A, right?
Right.
And as per your description, you're saying that this is retrieved from one of the DB server, correct?
Right.
And if that is the case, what is the kind of pitfall or downside of that versus if you want to kind of distribute or store the movie in multiple DB servers?
So multiple DB in the sense the same multiple databases in the same region or across multiple regions?
Yeah, it's multiple servers in the same region.
Okay. Okay, so
because consider that there are many users looking for that video, right?
Right.
And you're trying to kind of overwhelm that server which is storing that particular video versus. So what are the things you can consider in that scenario?
Right. Maybe I'm just thinking maybe if there are like on demand like on demand like if there are like newly released movies or popular things, right? So I know, like I think first week will be like we will have heavy load. Maybe I would maybe we will have some like a temporary kind of databases like which we can spin and keep it, or maybe it's like I have some like, so I have maybe some databases where I'll just load the the on demand the content. Maybe I could think of this way. So it's like the content in this database always change. So something like that.
Okay. And when you say cache, right? Like what kind of a cache it would be? How does the data look like in cache? So is it same form as DB or is it something different, or
No, I'm thinking actually, actually whatever the caches I worked so far, I know it's just like a key value pair I was storing, but I'm kind of thinking I want to store the entire content here. I'm not sure if cache is the right way, or there is some special object stores or something, but at least this cache doesn't, I want to store that entire content itself.
Mm-hmm.
you know, where, you know, we can just respond to the users with that entire content without, you know, hotspotting the system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And for the database, do you have any preference on selecting any data store as such based on this scenario?
Database, it's like I could think of NoSQL databases, but
Mhm.
because these are like, there is no relations among those things, right?
Mhm.
Since I want to replicate the same data across multiple,
Mhm.
and also I worked on only Cassandra, so I could only think of Cassandra.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
There, you know, we can just replicate the same data, you know,
Mhm.
across all the clusters, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I could only think of that.
Okay. Okay. And is there any other improvements you can make here?
Okay, let me check. Other improvements.
And also, if can you also talk about the indexing? What are the different indexes you try to use when you ingest the data, or when you ingest the content to the index server? And maybe you can expand more on that indexing part.
You mean what data I index here, or?
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is I want to store the meta information,
Mm-hmm.
like which will be morely helpful for me to, you know, just in case of search, yeah, mainly in search criteria only.
Mm-hmm.
So here, so in this, when someone yeah, look for this, hit the search API, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm returning these content ID, titles, description. So mainly, I want to store these information, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
some extra, you know, actors information, the
Mm-hmm.
rating information, but all the metadata, not the
Mm-hmm.
actual content, or maybe
Okay.
link to the content. So these information, exactly the same thing I want to store in this indexing layer.
And you will be adding the indexes on top of all that, what you mentioned there in the results?
Here, yes.
Okay. And what is the kind of, how about your like number of users, capacity planning? Can you think of that for your system?
Number of users.
So basically,
Mhm.
how many number of users and, bandwidth and things like that, traffic projections.
Yes, the users, but at least bandwidth, you know, based on, you know, anyway, maximum they might want to watch a 4K. So per second we can calculate, but I'm just trying to see how can I come to the user number.
So based on the capacity, do you pre-scale your system, or you're going to kind of, scale your system on demand?
So yeah, the initial thought was, since all these are distributed, right? So maybe I will start with smaller. I mean, so with and maybe a million or a few million users, and if based on that, you know, requirement and how, you know, and their latencies, and how the system is loaded, and based on that I wanted to scale. Initially that was my plan, because I don't have these user numbers in my mind.
Okay. And does it play any role in your design, the capacity
Yeah,
numbers?
definitely. So so to, you know, even to choose these systems also, and you know, like how many servers you want to have, so yeah, so that
Okay.
I think we need to have those at least some numbers before. But for Netflix, I couldn't think of. I'm not, so kind of
Okay.
like even how to relate the internet users with the Netflix, so that I'm kind of.
Okay. Okay.
I couldn't come up with a ballpark number. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine.
but that is it. Like, yeah, we need that
Mhm.
number.
Okay. And also, is it a read heavy system or the write heavy system? That can also be considered. So, is there any particular decision you can make based on that?
This is completely like read heavy because you know
Mm-hmm.
one video versus a million watches.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sugna, I think I'm
Okay.
selecting the numbers. I'm a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
The numbers I
No,
could
no.
come up with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So you can, yeah. So any other iterative design you can think of, or we can start with the feedback. I'm okay.
I mean, yeah, maybe I think let's start with the feedback. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And also there are a couple of chat messages, but hope our feedback is going to help answer such questions as well. Okay, so actually overall I felt good because you kind of, randomly chosen today. I don't know how much you prepared, but you were able to kind of, started with the small and able to kind of connect all the boxes. The one thing was on the requirements, maybe, you should have asked the interviewer saying that, hey, is it what you're thinking, or are there any other requirements like, recommendations and uploading the video, which even though we did not
দেরি
cover,
হয়ে
but you
গেছিল
were able
অনেক
to,
সবার
I think there is someone,
Background noise.
yeah. Yeah, the uploading the video, even though we have not discussed in the requirement, you were able to cover it at in the middle. So that is good. But in general, like, try to ask more questions with the interviewer. I mean, in general, the tendency is that people jump into the solution. But take at least 1 or 2 minutes to make sure that, whatever your requirements you have written are the ones which your interviewer are also looking on, which one he wanted or he or she wanted to focus on. But today I did not go into the details of any of one particular service or the API as such. I wanted to just cover the overall design. But sometimes people may choose one particular scenario and just deep dive into it. But most of the cases, they wanted to see the overall, thinking process. And yeah, when you say video, it's kind of uploading a video and also streaming a video, right? So those are the things which you may need to clarify with your interviewer.
Sure.
And yeah, regarding that, I think somewhere you mentioned on the browser talking to the, how does browser retrieve the data? Most of the cases, browser doesn't retrieve the data directly. It will always go through some of the middle layer, which is a web service which you have drawn. And and because it's content, like you also had a question on how do we stream the content. It's always been chunks, the smaller bytes. So the get content, right? It's more like a streaming. You get only smaller bytes. When you click on, you already selected a movie and trying to retrieve the data. So it will be in chunks. That is our API for streaming, and also offset and the resolution, because I might be watching on the desktop and then it will be coming back. Or maybe I'll go to my phone and start watching the remaining part of the movie, right? So it's always have mm, the offset and the resolution. Those are the things are missed in the get content API. And such result, we will, yeah, like the results, so we will not be able to return all the results. So we need to limit the results. That is something which we need to consider. In the requirement itself, you can ask like, how big this system is going to be. Like sometimes interviewers say, come up with your own numbers, like, Netflix has like, for example, I'm just giving 1 billion users and, 10% of them are active users. They watch 5 times per day and things like that. But most of the interviewers may not pay the attention to it, but sometimes that helps so that you are also thinking kind of a scaling part of it. So that is one point. And redundancy and replication. So most of the times it should come from the interviewee saying that, hey, currently I'm thinking one particular, but based on the scale, we have to make sure that the system is always available, right? So that's where the redundancy and the replication of the data comes into the picture. So how do you kind of make sure the system is always available and you replicate the data to other regions, and so that the data is not lost, and if system goes down in one particular region, it's always available. So yeah, even in the interview can also ask the questions on indexing part of it, like if they wanted to focus on one particular API, if interviewer wants to focus on, or they wanted to look at the overall design. And also when you talk about DB or the cache, you can also mention what kind of technology you can think of and the pros and cons of it. If I select Elastic Cache versus Memcache, or like content, the DB Cassandra versus some other database, how does it going to improve or the work? How does it work? So that way, interview gets that, okay, you know a couple of concepts and how to evaluate the DB based on your requirements. For this case, the content DB, I think Netflix uses Cassandra because of the query patterns, right? It's all based on the access patterns. So based on movie ID and user ID and things like that. So that is, I think that's totally fine. And indexing, yeah, you cannot use the Cassandra. It should be some search engine, whether it's Lucene, Solar, or Elasticsearch, based on the movie name, and some other search criteria things. And yeah, the other thing which I was kind of asking on, scaling the storage, right? So it is basically partitioning the data based on the user ID or the video ID, so that we are not going to overwhelm the server, DB server. We will have multiple replicas at the replicas at the partition servers. So it would be kind of, you can think of whether you'll be indexing on user ID or the video ID, the sharding, so that you can distribute the data based on the video or based on the uploader, which is a user. But if that video becomes, very popular, then indexing on the or sharding on the user ID will not help. So most of the recommendation was to shard based on the video ID, so that the same video means chunks of the video are distributed across multiple servers. But when you try to retrieve it, you'll aggregate it by talking to multiple DB servers.
Okay, so here when we say video, we are not talking about the whole movie, just the chunks.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So even we are hitting it, million times, but million different servers. It's like,
yes, correct,
okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Sure.
See, it's all kind of balancing, right? Like even that combining multiple chunks might increase the latency also. But at the same time, if you're not storing that video in a single server, if that server goes down, then it's kind of completely down, right? So it's kind of balancing. And also we'll not be hitting the server all the time, especially this is a huge content. So it's always, we use a CDN, content delivery network. That is a more like a, caching layer on the regions, or like, for example, if you're watching a movie from India, it will be cached on the CDN closer to that location versus retrieving the content from US data center. So CDN, content delivery network. Yeah. So the examples are like Akamai, Fastly, and things like that. Because movie data doesn't change, right? It's a kind of a static. It's a AKA-MI, Akamai, A. There is a A in the front. Yeah, AKA. Yeah. So yeah, that is my feedback. So, any other questions or comments from audience and from you as well? How do you feel actually, Raghu? How do you feel?
Yeah, so actually, I wanted to say thank you for taking the interview and also helping me in between. I know maybe I know you sensed that sometimes I paused and you sensed it and you maybe I don't know drive me to a different comfortable topic, or at least you have given some suggestions. I think the overall, and I think you are the ideal interviewer. People like me will hope for. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the times interviewers try to make the interview successful. They're not trying to kind of degrade you or trying to trouble you. So that is what I have seen in my interviews. But sometimes it depends on your kind of a luck also. There could be some aggressive interviewers as well. They were looking for one particular thing. They're trying to expect that one, and if that doesn't come out, then it might go in a different direction. But most of the interviewers try to kind of help you to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Suguna. And I have a question about this hard spotting, but yeah, when you mention about the chunking the video, then I got it. It's like either we load entire system or none. It's not like one node we are loading.
Yeah.
So question. Let's say some movie is popular, right? And we are sharding based on the video ID, right? If that movie is popular, then multiple users will try to watch it. Like, so
correct.
A lot of video shard. So it's correct to shard on the video ID. Like, can you? I mean, I wanted. Like, is it good to shard on video ID? Like for such.
Yeah. Yes, we can shard at the video ID, but as I said, right, we'll not be able to going every time and aggregating all the chunks and sending it to the user, right? It will always be in CDN. The content delivery network is already cached that if that movie is already popular, we should have already gotten into the CDN.
So CDN is more for static content, right? Not for dynamic.
Correct. Yeah. But movie, like, do you think that movie changes that frequently that, static content is like, HTML pages, even the content also. For that particular movie, does the content change that often?
No, it won't change at all. Even if there is a update to the movie, I think they will create it completely different way, right? They don't want to override the existing one.
Yeah, I think there are multiple ways. Sometimes they'll just override the data and periodically update, or mostly based on the user action. They try to kind of pull the latest. Yeah.
No, I thought let's say if it's a tech video, right? There can be frequent changes. I mean, movies they won't change, but in tech video,
10 o'clock.
So how do we? Like you're saying that they'll override it, right?
Yeah.
But in this setup for Netflix, the content, I don't think so is going to change. So whatever videos, what I see, I never encountered they have been changed. And I think, only like 0.5% or like 1% of videos might get changed over the period of time. But this content is, I think, quite static. Movies don't change. So, and yeah.
So basically, right, Netflix,
Sorry, go ahead.
Netflix has its own content delivery system, right, CDN, and it ties up with all the ISPs, internet service providers across the world and across the geographical regions. And based on the content that is stipulated or authorized for that country, they already pre-authorize all the data in that geographic location. So only the metadata gets flown around or thrown around across the ecosystem. But when the hard work of actually delivering the data, it actually directly comes from their local. So if you are in Seattle, the data is actually coming from Seattle. Or if you are in some other city, the data is already, they kept a box like a hardware box inside the main server to actually deliver the data. So they don't come from, so first time they see that more content is coming from a new geographic location, immediately they will talk to the ISP in that location and deliver the content there. And sometimes for new shows, they will pre-populate the data in those locations to reduce the network. And second thing, in terms of speed, depending on your speed, right? For each movie will have 300 types of content. So if you're watching one movie, like based on the 4K, 5G, or 4G, or depending 1080p, you'll get different kind of resolutions and a device type like mobile or desktop or Xbox. You have different content, and all that will be stored in there, and it will automatically determine preemptively if your connection is going down. So there is an open connection between your player and the network's CDN, which will automatically decide that your content speed is going from 500 Mbps to 100 Mbps. So automatically it will seamlessly uh, reduce the next packets. So sometimes when you start the movie, it may be a little bit blurry, but within few minutes it will cache it, or it will actually reduce the content, so you'll get clear view. So they do that, and they don't use regular REST APIs. They use different kind of APIs which constantly keep it thread open for them to monitor the content speed and the device ID and the content speed.
They
There's
use Dash, which is part of.
I have a question.
Streaming audio, and they use Open Connect. I think they were in the CDN previously, but it seems to be costly, so they moved on to build their own CDNs.
Yeah, they build their own.
Called Open Connect.
Yeah.
And there are around 1,000 Open Connects across the globe. So
yeah. If you see, there's a video in SD Skills that I provided for Netflix design itself. You can see in that I gave all this details there, exactly what actually happens in Netflix.
One question.
One sec.
How does
I think, hello, one sec. Sorry. So Sugna has to leave. So thank you so much, Sugna, for joining us today. And I really appreciate of taking the interview today. We'll see you soon then.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Sugna.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we can continue. Sorry, somebody was speaking.
Yeah. One question: how does the sharding of the database using video ID helps in hotspots?
Okay, if I understand correct, right? So I think Sugna is not talking about that entire video ID. So that video is, divided into so many chunks, right? I think for every 30 seconds, 1 minute, we will have some part of the video.
Yeah, so that will be pushed in your CDN, I think, what she mentioned.
So basically every video is divided into like 2 minutes chunks. And because the reason they do that is they have to embed the subtitles also. And they do testing for each subtitle for each format. So they always they have a packet IDs for different chunks, and each chunk they validate it. So each video is sharded into manageable chunks and stored in the content delivery network.
So, I mean, are we talking about the meta store sharding, or the sharding of the data store? I mean, the videos, the static content here, like.
I think they're talking about static content, how the content gets delivered into small packets and how it gets delivered. Like they won't be sending the full packet at the same time.
Right. That I understand. So you chunk it.
Yeah, unless you store it on your device offline, that is a separate process. But if you're not storing it on your device offline, it will only get, if you're at 5th minute, it will only preemptively get till like a 10th minute.
So if you do right click and do inspect, yeah, so it will show in the network tab, network. So somewhere here it will show the CDN, what they're using.
If you see this, right, this video is I don't know, it's not loading, but usually if you see this is only like less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's generally around 2 minutes. That's the standard.
So in terms of Metastore, if you are putting sharding it using the video ID, all the users who is watching the particular video will be going to the same shard, and the shard would be like overloaded, or it becomes a hotspot, right? Obviously, Metastore should be based on a combination of user ID and video ID, I guess, to be sharded. Otherwise, a single shard would be overloaded. The shard which has the hot video, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Bala,
they will.
you are right.
Yeah, they will be scaled. They will be scaled
If it is a
across.
Metastore, yeah. But if it is a video itself, then I think content delivery networks, whichever is the popular videos, always will be available in CDNs, or most recently released videos or anything that can be in CDN. That would be fine.
In CDN itself, they'll have different copies. That's what Netflix also tells you. We look into that info. There's one presentation that they give that saying that they know prior, based on the existing data, they tell that okay, in this region, this is going to be released. They know that this many users will come and log in and they'll start watching. So they preload and things and keep it ready.
Yeah. So what Netflix does is so all the first season 1, season 2s, right? If someone is opening a new season, so they pre-populate or they increase the Kubernetes pods so that it can scale out based on the user time zone. So what they do is evening, after hours, earlier, right? Between 6 to 10, they increase the pods because more people need it. And then after 10, they will reduce it. That's how YouTube also does. And as for season 4, 5, 6, very less people will do it. So they won't be increasing that. And during COVID times, they found out that more people are watching during the office hours between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Rather than earlier, it was only after 5 p.m. they used to have the spike. Now they're constant spike. Looks like people are watching more TV during office hours.
People are working from home or watching TV.
Yeah. See, I used to stream it and I'll work, but I'll not even watch it.
Yes. Kids will be watching, right? It's not us, but because all the kids watch 24/7, even when they're not watching. So they saw that during COVID times, the bandwidth reached maximum so they had to change their strategies and they change automatically based on the load. So it's basically scaling up, auto scaling of based on the user behavior, and they have some machine learning to preemptively scale up and scale down based on user activity.
So one question, like what kind of a protocol they use for communicating with the servers? We keep on getting the content, right?
No, that's Dash. Dynamic, something called Dynamic. It's part of a MPG protocol for streaming. Something called Dash. They tell it. It's called Dynamic.
Is it
streaming over HTTP? Adaptive streaming over HTTP.
Okay.
That's what it is. I think
it's a permanent connection to the server, is it, or the CDN? Or I mean to say, is it a TCP connection?
Yeah, it's a TCP. It works on HTTP only. the Dash, right? The Dash protocol works on over HTTP only. And there are other protocols like real-time message streaming protocol. I think they all have some problem. I think the Dash, LHS, the commonly used whenever you want to stream videos, right? These are the things that are commonly used. Even Netflix, I think YouTube is HSL, something. I think there are only three, I think 5 or 6 streaming protocols like Dash, they have HLS, they have Microsoft has one, and there is Adobe's one, and then there was another one from Adobe like real-time messaging service. I think that was the first one which Adobe released for Flash, using Flash. I think that was very better, but you need a Flash, and there was a bug, so they left it off. So these are the common ones which everyone uses.
Okay. So any idea on how content delivery networks work? Because my question is, obviously these kind of huge contents won't be fitting in a memory, right? It would be obviously in a disk, right?
Yeah. It stores in
It
a
is
disk.
Open Connect. If you see the video, the SD skills video, you will have that in detail, how that content is kept and how the red box is kept in locations and everything is in there. And also Netflix engineering blog has a couple of good articles in there.
Yeah.
I think generally for small contents like for CSS, HTML, I believe that these CDNs are more like reverse proxies. Basically, when you hit the proxy and the proxy talks to the origin server. It pulls the data, keeps it there. But this is one mode of typical mode of working, right? So most of the CDNs work like this. But I think in this case, since we're talking about movies, probably you need to preload them to the CDNs based on the usage and top videos and all. Yeah, there are two different modes, right? One is reverse proxy way, where you are hitting the proxy and pulling the data, and another way is to preload movie chunks into the CDNs and then serve it.
So my question is not that. So my question is basically like, whatever is the mode, preload or whatever, we cannot obviously store it in memory because no system is.
No, in this case, there is no
No,
point of memory, right? We are talking about GBs of data. It has to be something like distributed file storage. You need to have a distributed file storage where you keep the data on the disk and you serve it when the request arrives.
So you mean to say CDNs does that?
Yeah. It's basically a distributed file storage, right? So you are giving, it's a special type of CDN where you have mostly disk-oriented storage, right? So you need to have redundant copies of same data kept on disk.
Okay.
And most of
my thinking, so I'm not sure, maybe people can chip in.
See, actually what they do is, so for the Crown, right, they had n number of copies, it seems, for that web series. And so every CDN, right, will be connected to a they use, I think, Amazon S3. So once you request, then the CDN starts caching it everything into its location. And so it also has it has a high RAM, and the other point is that it has its own storage. So instead of going directly to the S3 for the subsequent call, it will have it in its location. Everything.
Okay, but I still feel like there is a limitation on the kind of disk reads any CDN or any system can do. I was wondering like how much.
I would assume that these are specialized CDNs, right? These are not like normal CDNs because you would end up using a lot of disk space. So I would assume that this is a specialized version probably.
So basically the concept of why Netflix came up with putting the CD like content in the ISPs is because they got fed up of paying to Amazon, because every time they were getting that, and they initially it was in Amazon, S3 bucket. Then they moved there from Akamai Technologies storage, and they were paying them. Then they moved that for going to ISPs, because ISPs were planning to charge Netflix for all the data that they're using. Because at one point they were using 1/3 of the network bandwidth across the world. Netflix and YouTube. YouTube, I don't know how they're doing it, but Netflix, they moved their content to, because as Crown and other series, when they come, they generally put it into their customized storage devices.
Okay.
So one question I have coming to the cache: when to use Elastic Cache and when to use CDN cache? Like any use case, like
Elastic Cache is basically for searching, right? So Elastic Cache is nothing but it's like name value pair hash map. So with all the metadata that you have, right, cast or movie names and all that, you will just store that and put that in Elastic Cache that you can scale out. It's just a metadata driven search. So that, and when you search for something like kids movies like Jungle Book, that will come, and then when you click on it, that will go to the load balancers, which will tell based on your device ID, when you and your location, it will go to the load balance to the nearest content ISP, and then it will see if the local content has that information, and if it doesn't, then it will get the content from the nearest ISP that has it, and then store it in the local ISP. So first time when you get it, it will do that, and then it will stay there.
Oh, okay. So, and one more question regarding the recommendation. What I was thinking, like every user will be dedicated a queue kind of thing, and based on his test, like all the videos would be collected and pushed into his queue. And whenever the user opens the Netflix account, he'll be recommended those videos. I mean, Netflix will recommend those things. So will it be a push mechanism or a pull mechanism? Like, I mean, will it be pulled by the user or push? Like, I don't understand that.
It's push mechanism, and the recommendation engine itself, we can talk for hours, because that is not a small topic. How the recommendation engine works. There's lots of machine learning, user behavior, and also based on your previous watch history. Your watch history,
your friends
watch,
watch
friends watch, and also your family. Different profiles will have different images. So each a mute check. So each user will have a different image. So for each movie, they have almost 20 to 30 different screenshots or titles, how the title is written, and how like for Stranger Things, they had multiple. So if you're more into words, then you'll have Stranger Things will be popular. If you're more into animation, then something like animated thing will show up there. So based on your watch history, even the title and also the posters will change. So if you watch same movie poster at your phone and your friend's phone, it will be different. So they customize even the posters for that is all machine learning. Recommendation engine does that. Like if I put this one, then only he will watch. And also the top 10.
It's a bad job, right?
It's a badge. Yeah, it's a job
yeah,
that they will push.
It's a bad job. And they do a pre-population every n minutes or whatever cadence it is.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whatever algos they use to determine the recommendation.
And now from last month onwards, they want to create a new system where you can actually, they're experimenting on few people, that they will only give you few, because customer can only look at the screen for like 3 seconds. So within 3 seconds, the top 3 movies that show up, they have a big algorithm and competitions, like how can you make sure that one the customer will click whatever is on top. And they want to keep that for the select users, so that if you click on those, then the machine learning will understand that it's working, and it will actually help you play more better content.
Okay, yeah. And one last thing, let's say I'm watching Netflix and I paused for some time, right? And then when I come back again, if I start, it will start from the same point or a little bit back. So
Yes.
how does Netflix take care of it? Like how is it handled in the backend?
So basically, you have a device ID, you have a packet size, and you have a user ID, right? So they store all the three in one place. So when you stop it at one place from your phone and you take it up on the TV, it will say which user is starting from which location, and automatically it will pick the next packet byte, right? So it has a byte movie ID. So then it will pick from the immediately. Sometimes when you watch few minutes front, also it goes a little bit back, even
Yes.
YouTube or something, because the
Yeah, I
packet.
think
Yeah.
that is where they do that indexing for each and every few minutes.
Yes.
See and keep it. I think that's why if sometimes, right, you watch it, but if you play, it'll play from back.
Yeah,
I think
little bit back, right?
yeah.
Almost like 1-2 minutes back it will go, because that's where it recorded. Like after you watch something, it will say that, okay, Praveen has watched this till 5 minutes mark, and then sometimes 6 minutes mark. And then next time when you go, if the packet starts from 5 minutes, I have to go back and watch the 5th minute to go forward, if I pick up the same thing from my phone or on other screen.
I would assume
Yeah.
the player is talking to server, and whenever you play something, the player updates the offset. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
player constantly talks to the server.
yeah,
Player
so
constantly gets
the
to
background.
see what is the wireless speed, what is the network speed, and everything.
Yeah, on the head of that time back, right? There's another
Yeah.
variable they hold is the profile per user. So Netflix supports up to 6 profile per user. So they goes by another shard level by profile, and which user, which profile playing on the phone, and now they move to TV. So they give you information on that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So basically they maintain offset along with the user ID, the video, what I'm watching, and the location ID, right? ID. So that next time if I watch it from other system, then initiate the packets from the moment where I paused.
Yeah, not just that. I think there will be a mapping between offsets of different formats also, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. If the net speed changes, right? So the quality of the video will change after that.
No, if you're going and watching in a mobile, there might be a different format that you're receiving, and then for that there will be a different next offset that we have to receive and view it, I guess. So there should be some mapping, I guess.
So Praveen, I think, yeah. So one question is that I think recently they are moving out of S3 and they're moving on to Kafka storage, I think. Do you have any idea on that? I think that's what
I guess for persistent connection, maybe Kafka gives like some persistent connection, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure because they were, yeah, because those guys continuously put a lot of videos on their system design changes and all. And somewhere I saw that they were telling that S3 cost is small, so they are keeping the old data there and they are moving and keeping the recent data on Kafka storage. That's why I was not sure what.
But basically, Kafka is to have communication between different services. Right? Like it's more on that. I think it's not only for storage. Like
Okay.
S3, you have if you have older videos or older movies, then you can have there's some way to put that in. There's S3 life cycles basically that you can actually put that into lower storage disks as well if they're old movies. Otherwise, if they're new movies, then they can put it in just S3. there's like so many kinds of object storage even in S3 as well, reduced storage and those kind of things. So I think they would do that for older movies. But according to my understanding, Kafka is to develop the communication between different services, how different microservices communicate to each other, and how they exchange messages on time. So I think that is the function.
I think every update is an event, as far as I think. So I think event streaming helps in periodically updating the content, right? Instead of doing on time. So they batch it and give it to the Kafka, and Kafka processors or stream engines can help in updating the content on a batch basis or micro batch basis.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, content based, event based will be more recommended. I don't know what exactly they use, but as you proceed with that checkpoint, automatically event can be triggered saying that this user has been finished that.
I feel Netflix is most of an eventing system. Like you can update the, I mean, whatever the up to what point they have watched and whatever, all those are events, if you see in a way, and that can be asynchronously be updated into the storage system.
That
Instead
should
of
be the,
direct.
because also when we are updating for a particular title and for a particular profile, they would not it would not, because when we are doing the asynchronous process, there will be multiple updates for the same title. So it would not make sense to process them and save the offset or whatever we are doing multiple times. So if you're working on a queue like a streaming based service, and there's a particular key by which you can identify the update, so you would not have multiple updates to be done. That would somehow reduce the load of your overall system. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So coming to DB, even, I mean, yeah, NoSQL makes sense because we don't have any ACID compliance over here, right? So
Yeah, you don't need to have asset complaint, because I think only the payment system they may be having a relation with this, but apart
But
from
the
that,
user information, and then the payment information, membership, all those are asset complaint. It should be, right?
yeah.
booking,
Should be asset complaint.
But apart
Even
from that,
They cannot completely.
I think
even
they
your
still they use Cassandra. They use Cassandra usually.
So Netflix uses MySQL for all their relational data, wherever they need to store and they use InnoDB for their resiliency, for how they store all the user information and all that. But everything else is they use
InnoDB is a storage engine for MySQL.
storage engine for MySQL, and they use that for all their user information.
I think they use couple of DBs. I think I heard about
one question: Can we use?
I heard about RockDB. I think these 3 DBs I have seen there in their presentation.
No, they use lots of things. Internally, they have lots of things, but for user information, they store MySQL.
Okay.
So why SQL we need to store for user, right? I mean, even NoSQL is fine, right? Every field, I mean, it's like you're maintaining a fixed table. That's why, right? Like user, I mean, all the user will have this name, ID, whatever, all those.
So user information, billing information, payment information, all that they use in MySQL. Everything else related to the search history, they use yeah, NoSQL kind of thing. Yeah.
But one question: why MySQL for this user information? Because even Cassandra supports a key value update in a transactional way, but not to a multiple keys, but a single a set of keys that updates are still can be done in a transactional way, right? it is not an eventual consistent for a particular key value transaction, I guess. Cassandra supports transaction, right?
Yeah, you could do everything in Cassandra. It's, you can do everything in every database, but they used MySQL.
No, I don't think ACID properties is supported by NoSQL. That there are some new DBs which are coming up with ACID properties, but the two-way commit you cannot do using any NoSQL.
ACID properties is not supported, is not completely true as far as I read. It supports minimum number of key transactions. Like, for example, in some HBase or something, they max support around 25 key value pairs that can update at a time in a transaction. So when they say they support transaction, that means either the complete update has happened or not. So that means all the ACID would be guaranteed in that, right?
No, I work on HBase. So the problem between, if you take a DB2 or Oracle, right? So within that session of the transaction, right? If anything goes wrong, it auto rolls back. Okay, it will go and roll back all your different DBs. It has
that's true for any transaction.
The problem with the problem with your HBase and all, right? So you have to manually find and roll back everything, or you need to overwrite that key which is already there. So you don't have
the definition of transaction is itself wrong then.
See, I don't think that the transaction which they mean is something different from the relational database like Oracle or the DB2 or something, which maintains ACID properties. So if you read any document, so ACID properties are not supported. There are some new DBs which are there, which are currently supporting. And I studied in, there's a book called Data Intensive, one minute, I have the book. So in that they tell that there are new DBs which are coming up with that ACID properties. System data intensive system design or something. Okay, data intensive application, which
designing data intensive applications.
In that they speak about this ACID properties. In that they clearly tell that currently there are a couple of DBs which support, but the common ones, right, the HBase or the Cassandra or the CouchDB, or those do not support ACID properties. There is a lot. The two-way commit is not supported. It's only by the Oracle DB or your DB2, the MySQL, all these databases only support this thing. So that book gives you an insight, the difference between the relational DB and the NoSQL, and they speak about what will happen if you use a payment system in NoSQL DB and how you will get into trouble. And that book again speaks about all this row level locking and all, right? See, still they tell that there is still problem in that, but when you compare these two, they tell that you should go with the ACID properties for most of the sensitive data that you're trying to do.
So I have one question regarding this DB itself. Like whenever you have a SQL data, a relational data, you use a SQL database or graph database, right? So when to use graph and when to use SQL, like, both of them suffices the ACID compliance, right? Like, what do you say? The relationships.
So you need graph only when you're trying to do relationship, right? If not, then why do you need to use that? So that's like Neo4j. I'm not sure Neo4j is the RTP, but that's more specifically the queries and everything, right? It's more towards graph related queries only.
Like FBN or users, like corresponding to one user, multiple users are kind of.
Yeah, so when you want to write a recommendation system, that is when they will go, because who your friend is, from which geography, how they are connected, what they are trying to see. That is when they would go for. because that's very easy using a graph DB and using yeah, it depends. See, one thing I get across all these design thing is they tell that it depends on the requirement. You need to choose a DB. It's not that you can just go ahead with always with SQL or relational. It completely depends on what you want. If it is you're going to do recommendation, then you want to combine data and do things, then do with the graph.
Folks, I would turn off the recording and we can continue the discussion. But before that, is there any feedback for Raghu? I felt Raghu just stepped in and took the opportunity to do that, and he did really well, what I feel as a starting point. And if I have to give a brownie points to him, he has a really nice presentation of connecting blocks. Even in the interview, he might get additional points for this if the interviewer likes how he draws things. And other things what I felt, there could be times when you might get a tricky topic like Netflix, which has a lot of components, but I would say don't get bogged down. Like do whatever you think you can do best. Might be interviewer is not expecting you to do like really complicated architecture. Just want to see your thought process. And based on your experience, like could be 3 to 4 years or 5 to 8 years, interview could trying to get the idea how you think about systems. So I feel here there are definitely Raghu, you can take it to the next level. I would recommend looking other system design videos on SB skills, because there is this part mentioned from requirements to estimations to high level design. So estimations was really not there. And things like Netflix could have a really big scale. And then in requirements, I think Sugana already mentioned that you should clarify more on requirements. Are you looking this or not? So if I think you work on these things, you are really there. It's just you can practice more on system design and you're almost there. It could be presenting a system design topic in your company or here or doing an interview. I think that's it.
Thank you.
I would say do more practice. You're almost there, and then you can adapt any situation afterwards.
Thanks, definitely. I'll work on it.
And is there anybody has feedback for Raghu?
I think Raghu really well, right? Like only couple of things like that. He didn't talk much on this CAP theorem, like what do you say, the non-functional requirement part, and a little bit on sharding and all. Other than that, like he performed really well to the best. I mean, he was not prepared that much, right? And on the fly, he, what do you say?
Yeah.
Opted to.
So our goal should be like we should have enough practice, and at any point, if you have to do back-to-back interviews, also like say you have to do 2 loops in back-to-back in that time we might not be prepared all the time. So it should be like anytime if I ask, we should be able to do system design. So I think doing a on-fly also sometimes help to get that mindset.
Yeah, 24/7, yes.
So Raghu, one feedback is in the requirement section, right? You just said video player, user account, multiple accounts. So try to write that as a statement, like what that means. Like I want the video to be stored in a place. I want as a user, like create that as a statement and reconfirm from the interviewer what actually the interviewer wants. Video, if someone looks at it, it's very abstract, right? Create a story or something that you can talk about the story. So the narrative should be for a system design is you should get the exact requirement. You can't create the whole Netflix system, right? So see which part of the Netflix system, whether it's just to get the content, or I can give you an overview, but which areas you want me to focus on more. Authentication, authorization. So in the requirement section, you can say, I want the video streaming to be seamless, right? Based on the network speed. So that can be one scenario. So you, or I want the different user accounts should have seamless content that needs to be saved or something like that. So you can ask the interviewer, is this good? Is this what you're looking for before you go anywhere else? So requirements phase, focus on little bit more, and whatever you're talking, right? You are talking, but you're not writing it here, so that at the end, you can go back to the interviewer, say that these were the requirements and this is how I came up with the answer. So then you interviewer cannot go back and say that, no, this is not what I wanted. If you have the requirements set in stone ahead of time. And then NFRs and other things, scalability, there's a behind the envelope things that you have to do. That also you can add it. But overall, you did great.
Sure, Pran. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great feedback. Yeah, sure, I'll work on that. Yeah, that I mean, just writing down or elaborating these requirement part is, I think that's a key point. Yeah, I think I missed it. Yeah, sure.
Because if you look at this after like 1-2 days, right, you will only not understand the specific areas: video, playback controls, user control, multiple profiles, and they all look the same, kind of. They're related. So unless you put some text prefix and suffix to those verbs, it won't make sense after some time.
Sure, Karan. Thank you for.
Sure, welcome.
So does systems, when I mean like streaming system and all, so there is, how do we know the crux of the problem that the interviewer is expecting when he is asking?
I would say like when you're writing requirements, that time only you can get a feeling like what interviewer is looking for. It's most like so Netflix is a different system where you don't upload content, but if it is like a YouTube, it's again streaming plus upload. So there could be a problem space different, like upload, viewing, streaming. So at that time after writing requirements, you can make sure like what problem space interview is more interested, like uploading, chunking, storing is the main problem, or just viewing. For example, Netflix, the main crux is how to stream it, how to show to the end user. So there could be situations based on your interaction with the interviewer. It's better to ask like, these are my V1 requirements, what could be my V2, or does the interviewer wants to solve everything, or just very high level and then deep dive on one particular area. So the more you talk, the more you collaborate, the better it would be.
Okay.
So I remember once I got this YouTube thing, I was not having any idea about that, but I asked a lot of questions, and I also told the interviewer like, hey, I never worked on similar systems, so I will only able to do best of my knowledge what I have on in general about system. So the interview was fine, and based on whatever I was knowing, I put that on the table and like worked well.
Okay.
Okay, with this, I would first stop the recording now and we can continue our discussion.